Welcome to Visions, a series of visits to almost everywhere. I'm your host and fellow traveler, Herb Malsman. We're on the road again. We are in Tegucigalpa, and we'll get a spelling on that for you in a moment so you can record this for posterity. We are in Honduras, the city of Tegucigalpa in Honduras, and I guess Tegucigalpa is the capital of Honduras. And we traveled, it is Wednesday, August 21st now, in 1997. We traveled here from Pittsburgh. We left yesterday. It was a 7 a.m. flight out of Pittsburgh. The 20th, we landed in Houston a couple of hours later. We cooled our heels for about an hour, and then we headed for Tegucigalpa. And then waiting online, I just have to say, waiting online as we were getting ready to board the plane, a lady that is a doctor, she has a medical mission here somewhere. She's with a church. She was asking me if this would be the first time I would ever land in Tegucigalpa, and I said yes. She said, well, you're in for a thrill. She says, this is going to be quite a landing for you, and I asked why. She says, well, you know, the mountains and all that. And I know in New York City, where I come from, LaGuardia is a problem because of the bay, and if the engines don't crank up really quick, it's a short runway, you're going to wind up in the drink. And it's happened tragically on a couple of occasions. I think Rikers Island was involved in one of those, but it wasn't for the bay. Something else had happened. But planes do land in the bay occasionally, not being able to get off on time. But in Tegucigalpa, it's a little bit different. You've got the mountain regions, and we're gonna meet our guest in a moment. He's kind of cooling his heels for a moment here. It's about 8 in the morning. When you're coming in, you're coming around into a mountain range, around a mountain range, and the plane, the wing on the left side of the plane, you don't look more than, it doesn't look more than 500 feet from the plane itself. And then you're coming over houses and farm area, and I mean, you can almost reach up and touch the underbelly of the plane coming in. So it is, and we gave the crew a standing ovation. Just about, well, we were in our seatbelts so we could stand, but a modified, and if we could have stood, I think we would have given them a standing ovation. It was a very exciting landing coming in. And then Continental Airways is right here, right next to our site right now. And I was asking the lady about, what about the takeoff? Is it just as much fun as the she says, no, she says, well, you'll see when you go. And I couldn't get to my camera, so I couldn't take a shot, but it was, I mean, we were kissing the treetops over there. And then I found out that Tegucigalpa, Honduras, is one of the 10 most dangerous airports to land at in the world. And knowing that, I would have come here anyway, because we're going to cover a subject this week that I've been looking forward to covering for 2 years, but I would have had a bit of trepidation. But so it's a good thing I didn't find out until Houston what the story was with the landing. We are again in Honduras, in Tegucigalpa. We are going to be covering, and I believe it's the 35th birthday now, perhaps a little bit, if you're a little bit older, the Peace Corps, created by the great John F. Kennedy and his short term. This is one of the things he created before he was cut down in November 1963. He, in his first year, I believe, he put together the Peace Corps along with Sergeant Shriver and a group of dedicated Americans. They brought together. They wanted to bring industry and knowledge to the world, and the Peace Corps was created. And we're going to get into the Peace Corps a little bit. We're going to first meet the director of the Peace Corps here in Tegucigalpa, and I have your first name is Arnaldo, and you're going to get to speak now, Arnaldo. I thank you very much. And your last name is?
My last name is Resendes.
Resendes. Okay, I'll remember that. Give us a little background and history of the Peace Corps and the sense that Tegucigalpa gets with the Peace Corps here.
Sure. As you said, we're celebrating, or Peace Corps itself is celebrating its 36th anniversary worldwide. This year, or beginning October 1st, we're actually celebrating our 35th anniversary in Honduras. The first volunteers came here back in 1962. We've had over 4,500 volunteers that have come through over the last 35 years in Honduras. This year, or presently, we have about 200 volunteers in country. We work in the areas of agriculture, water sanitation, micro-enterprise development, health, and natural resources. And as you said, Peace Corps is about bringing friendship, it's about bringing technology, but it's more of human technology, not, technology as we call it, is human, is people-to-people work. And the volunteers are all American citizens that volunteer for a total of 27 months. The 3 months of training in country plus the 24 months of service that they provide. And here we have had a really good rapport with the community, with both the national government as well as the local community. So we have I think we do a very good job here. The volunteers all do a great job. And even more important than that, they also take back a lot of knowledge about Honduras, knowledge about the Honduran community, the Honduran people, and actually, in a way, act as ambassadors to the United States from Honduras when they get back.
Are you Honduran?
No, I'm a U.S. Citizen. I've been here a year and 6 months now as the director for Peace Corps Honduras. Before this, I was 5 years as director of recruitment in Los Angeles for Southern California and Arizona. So,
where are you native to? I mean, where is your homeland?
Sure. I was actually born and raised in Mexico. I was about 12 years old when I went to the United States. So I was 12 years in Mexico and about 32 years in the States, and I'm working on 2 years in Honduras. So,
and most of the people, the staff here, are Honduran.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually have 3 what we call direct hire American citizens, and 27 of our staff are Honduran nationals, and we feel that that's really important because they know the needs of the country. They know how to work with the bureaucracy here in Honduras and that. So while we 3 of us are part of the American government, the other 27 are also government employees. However, they are what we call foreign service nationals.
Okay, we're in sort of a compound right now. There's a guard at the gate, and when I come in, I give over my passport, and they hold a passport at the guardhouse until I finish up and I leave, and then I get it back. And so sort of describe the building over here. We're sitting on what used to be a pool, but it's not a pool anymore.
Right. Yeah. This is we have like they're called champas here, but it's like a shaded area. It's actually a pool that has been covered over by some very nice wood floor. This is we have some of our swearing in parties or swearing in celebrations are held here. If we have a little party, a little reception, this is an outdoor type of thing, and it's nice and airy. It's open. It's very cool in the summertime, and in the wintertime it's also the climate is very temperate. We have our building right in front of us, which houses our programmatic and our administrative offices, and then to our left we have our medical unit where most of our volunteers come in to get rid of all those good things like diarrhea and all kinds of other little
all the perks
all the perks that come with Peace Corps, all the little animals
Peace Corps
that invade
perks. The animals that invade you said.
Right. We sit actually right in relatively right at the edge of downtown. To our right is the downtown area, the older part of Tegucigalpa. To our left is more the newer part of Tegucigalpa. There are a lot of embassies and other types of international organizations and that, and it's called Colonia Palmira. And at one time it used to be a very fancy neighborhood. Now, of course, it's more business, a business neighborhood.
Okay, 2 things. First, spell Tegucigalpa, and second, you said something about micro something or other, and I think I'll start you with TEGU something.
Tegucigalpa is spelled for the first, I guess the first syllable is Tegus, the Tegus, and kind of everybody refers to Tegucigalpa, at least all the volunteers and most Americans as Tegus, but it's Tegus, and then
it isn't C. Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's TGU. When you spell the whole word is TEGUCIGALPA.
Okay, yeah, give me a hand. Okay, and
I usually need something to write it before I can spell something.
Get the old spell, and it's known as Tegus.
Yeah, most people refer to it as Tegus, with the accent on the first T.
Right. Okay, then micro something or other. You're talking about the different things that you do here. Micro something or other. What was that?
There was micro enterprise development, small business development, economic development, and it's basically about trying to provide some of our knowledge in the United States about how to run business, small, mom and pop operation type of business, but to try to provide that information to the people in the community. They're starting out in businesses.
Okay. Now that I took care of some of the loose ends. Now the floor that we're sitting on, go back to the swimming pool for a second. The floor that we're sitting on, the pool is underneath here. Is the pool still there? Can you still tear up this wood and go swimming?
But we could tear up the wood and go swimming. However, I think we would have to change the water. It's still full of water because if you empty a swimming pool, it will crumble. The walls will crumble. So you need the water to keep the walls underneath up. But we do change the water about every 6 months, and it's chlorinated because it could be a really hotbed for mosquitoes if we didn't chlorinate the thing. However, we do not use it at all.
And you don't use it because what happened?
Well,
an ogre came through, the Grinch that stole the swimming. What happened there?
Yeah, I think that about 10 years ago or so, one of the country directors covered up because, it's very easy to have people have a swimming pool, come in and swimming, and somehow the image of Peace Corps working in the community, that would be kind of shoddy if people down the street, walking on the street, would see a bunch of Peace Corps volunteers just swimming during the day. It was just not the image of Peace Corps that we want to give out there.
Right. Okay, now as you walked past, I was looking for and I left your phone number back in the States, and I was looking for Peace Corps, and they helped me at the hotel, and then I went to Continental, and she helped me a little bit in the souvenir shop. It said English spoken. Mm-hmm. They helped me find Peace Corps a little bit. But when you get here, there's no indication that it is Peace Corps. It's a compound. It's a comfortable place. You look in here, it's wonderful, a beautiful building. Not a large building, but a small building with this outdoor area here. There's no indication that it is the Peace Corps. It leads me to either think that you kind of underplay it, or it may not be a good idea why no indication here on the building?
Basically for security reasons. As you know that in the 80s, the war in Nicaragua and El Salvador, there was also a lot of tension in Honduras. And, being an American institution, an American government institution, we wanted to keep a low profile, hence you don't see the flags, you don't see our sign outside. Mm-hmm. But pretty much everybody actually knows that this is Peace Corps.
Yeah, I think, because people would tell me that it was Peace Corps, this is Peace Corps right here, but you don't sort of flaunt it or advertise it. What is the feeling outside? I mean, you said the government is behind you and they help out, and it's good for the community and it's good for the area. But what is on the street? What are the do you go out there? I'm sure you go out there. What is the sense on the street about the Peace Corps and the relationship here?
The Peace Corps has always been welcome here in Honduras. We've always had a very good relationship with people. I think that if you speak to a lot of people that come from smaller towns from the surrounding country, or from throughout the country, most of them has met a volunteer at one time or another in the last 35 years. Some have been taught by a volunteer. Some will tell you that the volunteer has helped them put in a water system. In fact, just the day before yesterday, I was at the Hotel Maya, which is the main hotel in Tegucigalpa, and the guard that was there, I was talking to him, and I was waiting for someone, and I told him I was with Peace Corps, and right away he said, well, about 10 years ago we had this Peace Corps volunteer we call El Gringo, and he helped us build a school, he helped us put in a water system. So everywhere you go, you see that, and I think the main thing that people like about Peace Corps is that the volunteers live in the community that they work, so they become part of the community. They're not outsiders that just come in for the week or for the day and then move out. It's just some people that live with them for 2 years.
Right. Another thought I just had about the people, and the people have so far been wonderful, but I went in to buy the greatest chicken I ever had. I bought last night. It's a whole chicken, but it's called a Pollo, P-O-L-L-O, Pollo. Pollo. Oh, pollo, right.
Two L's together is pronounced as a Y.
So it's a pollo. And I walked in, I was asking about chicken, and they started laughing immediately. They start, but it was good natured. They started laughing and snickering, and not snickering, but that would be derisive. And it was 40 lempiras, and it's 13 lempira to $1. So the 40 would have been $3 or whatever the case was, $4. But anyway, I was trying to show the money and how much it would be, and they thought that these 4 women behind it thought that was the funniest thing they ever heard. And then I said, well, I'll be back, and I had to go to the hotel. Then I came back, and that chicken, they took that right off the spit. It was one of the, I don't know what the spices are. I'm sure you've had the chicken here. What about the spices? What did they do with that pollo to make it so gosh darn good?
Well, I think one of them is that most of the pollo here is grown in the farm. It's not artificially grown like they do in the United States, so you get a better flavor out of it. Second, they use a lot of traditional spices, oregano, garlic, cumin, both black and white pepper. And other spices that I don't know what they are, but they taste very good.
It was just extraordinary. I mean, the chicken was so meaty. I mean, it was a wonderful chicken. But anyway, that was my dinner last night. But coming in from the airport, I got into the cab and we came in, and I understood it was 70 lempiras. And I got out, and the worst thing you can do, folks, when you go traveling overseas, you put the money in your hand and you put it out and you say, how much? You go, you're in trouble right there. So he started taking, I exchanged some money at the airport at the bank there, and he gleefully, he was taking money out of my hand. He was loving every moment of it. And then I said, let's go into the hotel for a second. I want to check this out. So she kind of gave him a little bit of the and she gave him the change and the whole thing. And I shook his hand and he left, and that was it. Gracias, gracias. But anyway, I got a fair ride from the airport. So it's not New York City. It's everywhere. I mean, you can never put out your hand and go take. You can't do that someplace. But
here with the taxis, one of the main things you need to learn, and I think it's pretty much you should make it a practice anywhere in the world that you travel, is always agree on a price before you get on the cab. Because you can always ask, or you can always say, you know what, I'll take another cab. But once you get to your destination, then you got a problem because you already taken the ride. So always do it before you get in the cab. Negotiate a price.
Okay, because I was got right to the cab. Okay, now one more question before we go. I know what time is it now? It's
8:30 in the morning.
Oh, you're about halfway into your day right now. So you were here before I got here. I know it's about a half an hour ago. When I walked in here, the guard, as I said, takes your passport, and then you get up on the way out. He's carrying a pretty serious weapon over there, and wherever you look, I went into the bank, which is understandable. There's a guard out there with a very serious weapon. Everywhere you go, they don't look like more than 18 years old, 17 years old. Some of these guys in uniform, some of these people, and they carry weapons that are heavier than them, longer than them, in some cases taller. And in the chicken place, the pollo place, there was a guard. Why this serious weapon? Who are we? What are they on guard for? I mean, what are they expecting to happen?
Basically, the reason that they have a lot of weapons is because the resources of the country are such that the police department is very, very, very small. I'm sure you haven't seen a regular police walking or a car. They're not. I mean, so consequently, most of the guards are private guards. You know, it's not like in the United States, you call 911, 3 minutes, you have a police. You can call here 199, which is the emergency number. It may take a day or 2 days to get a police. Mm-hmm. So everybody relies on private guards. We're, of course, a U.S. government installation, and we are part of the American Embassy, so we use the same guards that the American Embassy has, and hence that's why we have those guards. But outside of here, in fact, I think that the private guard service probably has more police than the police department has.
Yeah. And where these weapons come from, you were saying that the weapons are not homegrown, all of them.
Oh no, I don't think there's a gun manufacturer in town. A lot of the weapons, of course, are left over from the war in El Salvador and Nicaragua, so consequently you have a lot of AK-47s and a lot of Uzis, you know, so when you see them, you know, now it's a wonder how many actually have bullets. Mm-hmm. You know, we kind of wonder about that sometimes because, you know, again, the resources are so small in the country that they just don't have, you know, the police force that we're accustomed to.
Yeah. Is this a dictatorship here? How does that break down politically? And I know there's an election going on right now, campaigning.
No, there has not been a dictator here, I believe, for the last 15 years. It had free elections. We're currently going through an election that will be held on December 1st. Mm-hmm. And it's the National Party and the Liberal Party. The Liberal Party is in power right now. The president serves for 4 years but does not get reelected. So there will be a new president come February 1st, but the election itself is November 30th. It's a free election all the way from mayors up to the president.
And what is the length of service for the president?
For the president, it's 4 years. Again, with no re-election. There's no re-election, so it's just 4 years. Then a new president has to come in.
Right. You're talking about we're going to finish up in a second. You're talking about the economy. There are a lot of people selling on the street. I bought from a child yesterday. It looked like a tortilla sort of thing, a flat sort of like a crepe. Mm-hmm. And I already had the chicken, and I says, well, so I just take a 1 lempira, and she was so sweet, and I just walked over and said, let me take, because I would really like to support her a little bit and help her out today. A lot of people people selling candies and things on the street. I mean, there's an awful lot of poverty here, is there not?
Well, unfortunately, yes. Something like 70% of the population of Honduras lives below poverty guidelines, and about 40% live in absolute poverty. And absolute poverty is basically defined as someone who lives under $1 a day. So about 40% of the population actually live under $1 a day. I think it's beginning to get better. The economy is getting better. It still has probably this year about a 16% inflation. They have some growth. Of course, they have a population growth that always impacts the economic growth of a country. But there is a lot of poverty. There's a large sector that's outside of the regular economy, and those are a lot of the street vendors, people that try to make it one way or the other, and they sell whatever that they can get their hands on.
What does that do for the Peace Corps? I mean, you're depending on the economy as well as the resources here. How does that affect your work here?
Well, it really doesn't affect the work. It just makes the work a lot harder, of course, because of such a high percentage of poverty. But indeed, we are about working with the poorest of the poor, and so our volunteers work right alongside with the people at the community level with the poorest of the poor. So, we don't use outside resources. We try, we will when we can get them. But our thing is mostly people to people, trying to transfer our knowledge to someone else.
What is the future of the Peace Corps here? What is the 37th anniversary leading up to? When is the anniversary? What's the date?
Well, October 1st will be our 35th anniversary.
36th or 35th?
Peace Corps worldwide is 35th.
Got it.
Honduras, it's 36th worldwide. 35 years in Honduras as of October 1st. Where are we going to be, let's say, in the year 2005? Probably we'll still be here. We would hope that we wouldn't have to be here, because part of our job would be to work ourselves out of a job, that we provide a certain amount of assistance and we're no longer needed. The way the economy is here, and Honduras is the third poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, we're going to be around for a while. It looks like we will continue to do what we think is successful, which is the people-to-people transfer of knowledge and technology.
Yeah. Will the pool ever? And I think of It's a Wonderful Life with James Stewart when they're dancing at the gym. The prom. Was that the prom?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, some wise guy opens up hits the switch, and the dance floor opens, and they wind up in the pool. Will the pool ever be open sometime late at night? A late at night swim around? I mean, is there anything planned, or this is going to be it?
No, the pool will remain covered. I always get that question asked by every volunteer that gets into the country. When are you going to open the pool? I say, we're not.
Right. Okay. How many Peace Corps installations are there around the world now?
Currently, we have 87 countries in the world: Africa, Eastern Europe, Asia, the Pacific, as well as the Caribbean and the Latin America.
Right. Arnaldo Resendez. I thank you very much. Anything to close with? Anything you'd like to say? I can't. I know we're going to be busy here this week getting to some of the sites. But we really don't have that nailed down exactly what we're going to be doing this week. Anything to add before we shut tape?
Well, only that I think that even though Honduras is one of the poorest countries in the Western Hemisphere, it's also one of the most beautiful countries in the Western Hemisphere. There's a lot of areas to visit, places that still have not been touched by modernization, and that is always it's really pretty, and it's also another the best beaches in the world.
Really, how far are we from a beach?
About 4 hours, 5 hours.
Well, I won't get those seashells. Okay, then on the other side, I just want to say before talking about the cab driver, everybody else was, the lady at the hotel, and they've just been really generous and a pleasure to work with. And CNN, I get CNN over here. Of course, you get CNN everywhere. And then I was watching a little Here's Lucy last night, and sometimes they're dubbed, and sometimes they have the subtitles. So, they a little bit for everybody. Everybody gets to enjoy television we've got the cable here and the whole thing, so it's great. Arnaldo, thank you very much. And just beyond this, I guess the next time we go on the air, we'll be with at least one guide, I guess, that's going to be working with us here this week. And we'll be here, our last full day will be the 26th of August, so we'll be here for a week. Arnaldo, in this beautiful setting, the sun is out and it's about 8:40 right now. You have a beautiful breeze happening here. It looks like we're in for a beautiful summer day here today. I thank you very much, sir, and thank you for your graciousness this morning and throughout. Matter of fact, I've known about you for a couple of years, but we first spoke. I called you from the States last week, first time we spoke, and of course Brendan Daly and then Patty, and I forget her last name, and Gabby Bozier, who first set this up. She's no longer with the Peace Corps, but I thank everybody, and we'll begin by well, again, thank you, sir. We're going to shut tape now, and I guess we've covered everything.
Looks, I think we've covered most everything.
Okay, you're listening to Visions, a series of visits to almost everywhere. I'm your host and fellow traveler, Herb Malsman. It is Wednesday, August 21st, 1997. We're at Tegucigalpa, Honduras. So we're going to be spending a week here with the Peace Corps. And I don't know what the sound we're hearing, and it sounded like a siren at first, but it isn't. We're here in the Peace Corps compound. We'll call it a compound here. Yeah, that's an apt description, I guess. Let's cut tape now, and I don't know what's happening beyond this cut, but something will be there. As a matter of fact, instead of cutting, we're gonna kind of fade out on people going to work here and very busy on the street there. Let's kind of fade out, and then we'll see you behind the fade. So again, you're listening to Visions, a series of visits to almost everywhere. I'm your host and fellow traveler, Herb Malsman. Thank you. You're listening to Visions, a series of visits to almost everywhere. I'm your host and fellow traveler, Herb Malsman. We're in Tegucigalpa, or as we'll call it for the week, Tegus, Honduras, where we're going to spend a week with the Peace Corps. It is Wednesday, August 28th, 1997. We have a volunteer with us, Yolanda. She is rushing. She is going to be going someplace to pick up a friend and meet a friend. A little background, Yolanda, how long you here? Where are you from? Where are you going? What's your expertise? And why did you get involved in this? And any of that will be fine first.
Okay, let me see. I'm down in the south right now, in southern Honduras. It's a small town called Namasigüe. Let me see. I'm from LA originally. Where am I going? Well, my friend's coming in, so we're going to go on vacation. We're going to go up to Trujillo, which is up on the north coast. And then from there, we're going to go out to the west in Copan, which is where all the ruins are. And then from there, we're going to go into Guatemala. Because it's right at the border, Copan to Guatemala, and we'll probably go into Antigua, and then I'll fly back.
What about the ruins in Copan? The ruins are always great, but what makes do these ruins stand out from other ruins?
Yeah, this was they said the Paris of for the Mayans out in Copan. So it's a lot more intricate, the ruins there, than they are in other places. Because I've also been up to Chichen Itza, which is in Mexico, and although the pyramids there are much bigger and seems to be much more, there's a lot more art involved in the stuff in Copan.
Mm-hmm. What made you get involved in you're of Spanish descent, would
Yes.
that be right? What made you get involved? Did you want Honduras? What made you get involved in the Peace Corps? What was your motivating factor here?
Peace Corps, I thought, was something that not very many people do. It was just something different, and I've always been involved in service for a community and stuff, and I just wanted to try it outside of the United States. I wanted the experience of living outside of the United States. Originally, I was supposed to go to Sri Lanka, and they ended up sending me to Honduras. They told me I should wait because I speak Spanish fluently, and it was just, I guess, better for Peace Corps more than me.
Yeah, hardly anybody on the street that I met so far, and I speak no Spanish, so hardly anybody on the street speaks English. So you translate as well. So you're going to be here for 27 months. How much time do you have in now?
I've been in country for 17 months, so I only have 10 months left. So now I'm downhill. And I hear it goes really fast from here. Yeah.
And where do you go from here? Beyond the ruins? In 10 months from now, you're going to leave, and it's going to be a tearful finale for you. I'm certain of that is, but I see it happening to you now. What's going to happen in 10 months from now? Where do you go from here? Where do you go from the Peace Corps? And I'm getting it too. I'm really feeling for you.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really hard to leave. And the longer I spend in my community, the more I realize that. But after this, I'll probably travel about a month after I COS, my close of service. And from there, I'll go back to LA and apply for graduate school.
What will you take away from here? I mean, what do you see this? What is this? What will this be doing for the rest of your life? Now, you're a young woman. You've been to school. I'm sure you've done your college time. Have you not?
Yeah. Taken away from here, I think I'll take just incredible memories of how wonderful people are, and how no matter how poor they are, they'll give as much as they can of themselves to you.
Are you different today than you were 17 months ago when you first? You were kind of. Are you a different person today than you were when you first signed on?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. You go through really hard times here, and you learn to be really tough about things. I think I've become tougher about things. You know, just been able to put up with a lot more that I never thought I would, and adjust to things that I never thought I could adjust to.
Yeah. Okay, Yolanda, and your last name?
Lopez.
Yolanda Lopez, a perfect name for the region here, I guess. Okay, anything to add at this point, or I know you're kind of preoccupied with getting going. Anything else to add here?
No, I've got the opportunity to come to Honduras. It's a great place. It's beautiful. The people are wonderful. Just be really careful when you're down here, because I know a lot of people think it's a scary place to be because of the threat of violence and stuff, but just be really careful and aware of where you're at.
Is that a violence guerrilla style, anti-government, or just on the street?
Just on the street, just the crime on the street.
Guwahati is a problem because of the bay, and if the engines don't crank up really quick, it's a short runway, you're going to wind up in the drink. And it's happened tragically on a couple of occasions. I think Rikers Island was involved in one of those, but it wasn't for the bay. Something else had happened. The planes do land in the bay occasionally, not being able to get off on time. But in Tegucigalpa, it's a little bit different. You've got the mountain regions, and we're gonna meet our guest in a moment. He's kind of cooling his heels for a moment here. It's about 8 in the morning. When you're coming in, you're coming around into a mountain range. You're on a mountain range, and the plane, the wing on the left side of the plane, you don't look more than it doesn't look more than 500 feet from the plane itself. And then you're coming over houses and farm area, and I mean, you can almost reach up and touch the underbelly of the plane coming in. So it is, and we gave the crew a standing ovation. Just about, well, we were in our seatbelts so we could stand, but a modified, and if we could have stood, I think we would have given him a standing ovation. It was a very exciting landing coming at 63. He, in his first year, I believe, he put together the Peace Corps along with Sergeant Shriver and a group of dedicated Americans. They brought together. They wanted to bring industry and knowledge to the world, and the Peace Corps was created. And we're going to get into the Peace Corps a little bit. We're going to first meet the director of the Peace Corps here in Tegucigalpa, and I have your first name is Arnaldo, and you're going to get to speak now, Arnaldo. I thank you very much. And your last name is?
My last name is Resendes.
Resendes. Okay, I'll remember that. Give us a little background and history of the Peace Corps and the sense that Tegucigalpa gets with the Peace Corps here.
Sure. As you said, we're celebrating, our Peace Corps itself has celebrated. It's celebrating its 36th anniversary worldwide. This year, or beginning October 1st, we're actually celebrating our 35th anniversary in Honduras. The first volunteers came here back in 1962.
And then Continental Airways is right here, right next to our site right now. And I was asking the lady about what about the takeoff? Is it just as much fun as the? She says no. She says, well, you'll see when you go. And I couldn't get to my camera, so I couldn't take a shot. But it was, I mean, we were kissing the treetops over there. And then I found out that Tegucigalpa, Honduras, is one of the 10 most dangerous airports to land at in the world. And knowing that, I would have come here anyway, because we're going to cover a subject this week that I've been looking forward to covering for 2 years, but I would have had a bit of trepidation. But so it's a good thing I didn't find out until Houston what the story was with the landing. We are again in Honduras, in Tegucigalpa. We are going to be covering, and I believe it's the 35th birthday now, perhaps a little bit, if you're a little bit older, the Peace Corps, created by the great John F. Kennedy and his short term. This is one of the things he created before he was cut down in November 1922, Welcome to Visions, a series of visits to almost everywhere. I'm your host and fellow traveler, Herb Mosman. We're on the road again. We are in Tegucigalpa, and we'll get a spelling on that for you in a moment so you can record this for posterity. We are in Honduras, the city of Tegucigalpa in Honduras, and I guess Tegucigalpa is the capital of Honduras. And we traveled, it is Wednesday, August 21st now, in 1997. We traveled here from Pittsburgh. We left yesterday. It was a 7 a.m. flight out of Pittsburgh. The 20th, we landed in Houston a couple of hours later. We cooled our heels for about an hour, and then we headed for Tegucigalpa. And then waiting online, I just have to say, waiting online as we were getting ready to board the plane, a lady that is a doctor, she has a medical mission here somewhere. She's with a church. She was asking me if this would be the first time I would ever land in Tegucigalpa, and I said yes. She said, well, you're in for a thrill. She says, this is going to be quite a landing for you, and I asked why. She says, well, you know, the mountains and all that. And I know in New York City, where I come from,
we've had over 4,500 volunteers that have come through over the last 35 years in Honduras. This year, or presently, we have about 200 volunteers in country. We work in the areas of agriculture, water sanitation, micro-enterprise development, health, and natural resources. And as you said, Peace Corps is about bringing friendship, it's about bringing technology, but it's more of human technology, not, you know, technology as we call it, is human, is people-to-people work. And the volunteers are all American citizens that volunteer for a total of 27 months. The 3 months of training in country plus the 24 months of service that they provide. And here we have had a really good rapport with the community, with both the national government as well as the local community. So we have I think we do a very good job here. The volunteers all do a great job. And even more important than that, they also take back a lot of knowledge